Well, it's a pity we couldn't have had all of us in the same room to feel the effect of that. But I hope you'll agree that the message, however conveyed remotely, digitally, resonated. And in a sense, before I complete the day's program and move those on who are going to be staying on into the workshop, I thought I would just take that theme of changing the rules of the game. In essence, we're asking courts to help change the rules of the game, but we fully understand that there are many other actors involved. It is one lever amongst many, one lever of power amongst many. And the language of the law is critical. It is an empowering language, depending on who owns it and possesses it and has control over it. So access to justice and the rule of law is obviously central, and many contributions today have made that point most clearly to you from different parts of the world. It's also true that if you change the rules of the game in the way that you've just heard, you make it more likely that markets change their shape, that this can be a positive thing for the flow of finance and technology and innovation in a different direction, away from climate risk and towards opportunity in the shift that we have to make to deal with this problem, so that the imperative itself drives change, but positive change, change that one should embrace, not just the burden of change, but the excitement associated with change. The law has a fundamental role to play there. There's a fundamental role to play in all of those myriad ways in which law engages with everyday decision-making, including, of course, in private contract. I think it's notable that during the course of this last week or so, there's been a new association of lawyers launched, focused on delivering net zero. Some very big law firms here in London, global law firms around the world. That's a generational shift too. Lawyers coming into those practices will want to know how to use their skills in a positive and creative way, and not necessarily merely be an instrument of those who have the power and the resources to use the law as it is. It's true that if we were able to build into our constitutions and our legal frameworks the proper valuation of nature and natural systems, that would have a profound effect on where resources go, what was exploited, what wasn't. We will still need minerals in order to support the technology innovation required, say, in the energy sector, in batteries, wind turbines, and solar cells, et cetera, et cetera. We know that. But if you value nature, it will have a consequence on what gets exploited and where and who benefits. It's also true, and Johan made this very clear right at the beginning, is that we have a system problem that requires system solutions. Note his title, he's Professor of Earth Systems. And our international legal system is still fragmented, and although in theory it operates in a universal way, we know, and we had many examples already, that in practice it's quite bitty and unconnected. And sometimes that's a strength because that's where the enforcement lies at the national level. But sometimes it reveals very clearly the inadequacy, as Laurent said, of our international institutions and our capacity to do both law creation and law enforcement at a global scale, at a planetary scale, within those planetary boundaries that Johan and his colleagues have so clearly articulated. So we did spend time properly on the critical separation of powers issues. We have looked critically at the role of law as compared to other mechanisms and the role of litigation within the role of law. Not always the first best option, but certainly, as Lavanya said, one of the options that is available to a society, variable in its effect, but vital to be accessed. So here we are, we've arrived at the end of the day. I've got to do a couple of thank yous and pass you on to the next part of the program. First of all, huge thank you to our hosts and sponsors and supporters, the British Institute of International and Comparative Law, and Hausfeld, the law firm where I am today. I've been sitting there in their offices. Thank you very much for all of your support, including your tech support. Really appreciate everything you've done to put this event on and support not just work during, but after and around, and all the work you do in this field. So thank you very much, Hausfeld and Bickel, as we call it. Thank you also to Callum and his colleagues who have supported me and others in putting all this together. Really, really appreciate that. So I want to thank everybody for participating on the first day of this summit. It's been incredible to have so many of you joining, to be able to listen to such an interesting group of speakers. We will soon be starting the session of workshops in about 15 minutes or so, because we're on time, which is good, and which will bring together experts from different disciplines and from every part of the world. If you have registered for this workshop or these workshops, you will be able to join those workshops using the links that have been provided to you, and you'll be able to do that in a few moments. We will be reporting back to you, all of you, although you attend tomorrow, the outcome of those workshops. And that'll be done just after we kick off tomorrow morning in Eastern time, 9 o'clock Eastern States time tomorrow, and obviously later here in the UK and later elsewhere in the world too, obviously. But until then, please do take care. Those who have registered for the workshop, that's great. It's your chance to get involved in the discussion that follows. And I'll be very curious to see what they've. We've got wonderful rapporteurs. We'll get great feedback. And we'll pick up some of the questions I would have liked to have answered in the chat. Because we had so many speakers, quite difficult to make sure everybody was involved. And I'll have to get better, I think, at taking in your questions as I go along. But I will look at them now and build up a sort of plate for tomorrow to be served to the other participants, or if you come back tomorrow, you'll be able to hear. So that's enough for now. Thank you very much for your attendance. I hope you enjoy the workshops, and special thanks to all the speakers, of course. We'd give them a round of applause, but they weren't here. So take care and speak to you tomorrow. Good night.